and Instagram killed us, I think. We're back online. I don't know if it has something that turns it off after an hour or so. Let's see if Suzanne's back. Everyone's back online. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Yeah, it's saved. Hi, I'll just invite you again there, Suzanne. Wait a second. I don't
Hi,
know what
what
happened.
happened? Did we time out?
Yeah, I think so. It was exactly an hour. We were
Oh
talking
my
for
God,
exactly an hour, and then it
so funny.
cut it off.
Okay.
So I don't know if it has some kind of. It might have some kind of a limit. I don't know.
Okay.
What was we talking about? Yeah, Don McCullen, war photographer.
Yes, I
Taking
don't
some
know.
amazing images.
I think war photography, I mean, not just of blood and guts, but I think the Vietnam era war photos are some of the most compelling images that have ever been taken.
Yeah.
Really, really.
Let's have a look. We lost a couple of the questions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This will be a new video.
The last part's recorded, and it's going to be on. It'll be on the stories at the top of.
Okay.
And then also we're going to hopefully put it over to YouTube as well, so if people can't see it. I don't know what happened there. Why it turned off. Hopefully it will stay.
It might just time out.
Yeah, I think it just times out. What have you got coming up? What have you got coming up next? What's the next big thing? What's the next plan?
I don't know. You know something? One of the things that I think a lot of photographers do is they travel a lot. And you need a lot of money to travel a lot. And when I traveled last time, somebody said, what camera do I use? So before I continue, I am currently using a Sony a7R III. And I have two lenses. One is a 35 millimeter Sony Zeiss f1.4. The other is a Zeiss Batis 25 millimeter f2. I still have my Fujifilm X-T2, which needs to be fixed. It's completely shot. It needs the entire top assembly replaced. And I will shoot with that, but mostly I'm going full frame. And how do I decide what becomes black and white and what is color? Boy, that's tricky. I used to shoot only black and white, like mostly black and white. I started doing that because people seem to like my black and whites, and I like my black and whites, but I think for me, color is more important to really capture the, I hate capture, I use it a lot, but you know, I mean, I think color is really important, so most of the time I will defer to a color photo because I am trying to show what it looks like and what it feels like. But sometimes black and white speaks to me. I think the Fujifilms do really nice black and whites. Maybe I think I might like them a little better than what I'm seeing off the A7R III, but I don't do too many black and whites, so let me erase that. I don't know. I haven't really evaluated the Sony camera yet for black and white because it's a conversion anyway. But we were saying, what were we saying before that question?
I can't remember.
I don't either. So somebody had asked me something.
I think it was talking about war photography.
Yes. I think that those images are traveling.
Traveling, there we go.
Yeah, so hey, you got to have a lot of money to travel, guys. You know, I mean, I have a son, and so before I did have to leave California for some personal reasons that had to do with my son and my situation. So I felt that it was the time to do some traveling, and I needed to do it to augment my portfolio, and I really wanted to do it. I think, though, that you have a lot of photographers who are independently bankrolled and have money in their family that are bankrolling them because there's not really a lot of money in photography for a lot of people. I mean, when you realize that you need thousands of dollars a month to live. So the thing is that traveling is good because it augments your portfolio and it forces you to approach places differently, and the more flexible you become in your approach to taking pictures. I'm looking at these questions.
Yeah, some of them are coming in, some of them are pouring in.
Yeah, so if you can remember them, I just think traveling makes you more flexible and teaches you to every place should be photographed differently. The pictures I take in New York City are different than the ones on Skid Row or downtown Los Angeles. Paris is different. I was in Turkey. Nobody really liked my Turkey pictures. Istanbul, but they're all different places, and they force a different type of expression.
Yeah. Just so if we get anybody who's coming in new, the previous hour of the interview, when a lot of these questions are answered, what gear you're using and all that sort of stuff, that's going to be on the other interview. It'll be on the stories for another 24 hours, and then we'll put it up on our YouTube video. But it's actually quite shocking that you've only been shooting for 3 years.
Yeah, somebody says, how did I discover photography? So we didn't answer that. I was kind of anti-camera. I was the kind of person that did a lot of traveling, and I didn't carry a camera. I thought it was kind of lame. I'm sorry, I was an idiot. So anyway, I went to Europe with my son on a trip that we saved up for a long time. We went 3 years ago almost. And I had an iPhone 5, and I don't know what the hell happened, but I started taking pictures. What do I snack on? I snack on nuts. I bring roasted cashews and sprouted almonds and Greek yogurt. So anyway, I started taking iPhone pictures, and I found myself taking images of, at first I started sort of doing landscape in Bruges in Belgium and Venice and just tourist pictures, but I thought they were kind of good and I liked doing it. And then I started following people around. It was kind of weird because I just started following gypsies. That's what I really started being interested in. And I was following people in Paris, and I realized really fast that this was it. This is just like meeting a soulmate. I realized really, really fast I was going to have to get a camera. And I Googled it, and I went on Instagram, and I found street photography, and I thought, that's what I'm doing. I'm a street photographer. Isn't that weird? You know, and then I remembered all these black and white images that we talked about in the previous recording. You asked me what my influences were. I think it was previously.
Yeah.
And then I realized that I wanted to make those pictures myself. How do I handle what situations? What did they say? We're getting some good questions that I can't see.
You can scroll down as well, I think.
Oh, I don't want to touch it because I will make a mistake. So you do that. If I touch it, and I could like sign off. I'm afraid.
Susanna, I love your work. Do you have people yell at you and threaten to break your camera for taking pictures? How do you handle that situation?
I have definitely. I've been kicked. I got kicked in Paris. My head and camera got kicked. That was the XT2, and that camera's a tank. It survived. Yes, I've had people threatening to break my camera, which I find to be disgusting because most of the people doing it are like 6 foot tall males. Do I cry or think at night what I have seen? Yeah, what'll happen is when I'm doing the pictures, when I'm in these difficult situations, like when I was in Turkey, I photographed homeless children, and in Paris, some of that too, and also in Skid Row, obviously. I don't really think about it when I'm in the situation because I really can't. I talked in the first interview, which if you want a lot of questions answered, you really should watch that one that will be posted. But you do have to have a level of callous detachment to do these pictures. There is no way that you can take pictures unless you have a level of, you have to be very sensitive and empathetic to grasp the situation to begin with, but you have to have a level of callousness to allow you to take the picture because it is kind of intrusive to photograph somebody, whether they're doing drugs or they're a homeless refugee coming off a boat on the coast of Lesbos. Okay, so yes, I would get home, or I would be driving home, and all of a sudden I really realized what happened in front of me. I would be like, this just recently happened. I realized that someone had been molested as a child. I was blown away. I didn't get it at the time I was doing the pictures. It blew me away. I made the connections when I left, and there are times when I've been pretty damn depressed, you know, honestly. Some of the stuff that's was really difficult for me was the children I did in Istanbul. I saw children being really maltreated. They were refugees, Syrians. You hear all this stuff about Syrian refugees, but you don't realize what their lives are really like. It can be really awful for children. What are these?
Here we've got a question, which this is fantastic because it really annoys me as well. This Sebastio Salgado says that taking a picture with a smartphone is not photography. What do you think about it?
You know what? To be honest, I'm sorry, but sometimes I kind of like agree. I hate to say it, you know. Sometimes if I walk out without my camera, I'll be like, well, I have my iPhone with me, but I don't use it because look, when I started out, I used my iPhone, but immediately within like a week, I knew I had to get a camera because the iPhone just could not capture what I wanted to capture. There's a lot of great photographers that use smartphones, you know, and they should be allowed to express themselves without, you know, some person with a complex camera saying, well, you're not a real photographer. I don't really want to do that, but I do think that there's a level of expertise that people who use cameras have that people who use smartphones don't have, like it or not. But ultimately, it is about the image, and there's people out there with smartphones making a hell of a lot more money than I am and getting endorsements, because ultimately it's about whether someone wants the picture.
Oh yeah, definitely. Some of the most iconic images are taken on cameras that are not even as good as a smartphone these days.
Yes, exactly. But a smartphone is kind of the easy way out. The smartphone does a lot of work for you. I can pick up my smartphone and it filters it, but I don't want to. I think that there are some people out there doing pretty pictures with smartphones. They are what I call pretty pictures, and they have value to the people taking them, and there's a lot of people that like the pictures. But I don't really like it when I busted my ass so much with my camera, and I make errors regularly with the camera. You know, so you know, it's to each his own. You know, I guess.
The photo on my page is of the coffee is from my smartphone. Now we're gonna start the smartphone argument now.
No, I don't want to do the smartphone argument. I think that you know, ultimately it is the image, and if someone, you know, okay, on Skid Row there's people with smartphones. No shooting on film. Yes, those film photographers, a lot of those guys and girls, you know, are better photographers, technically at least. They have to understand variable lighting conditions and how to expose, because they don't get to see it in a live view. So obviously there's a level of skill there. But digital photography has changed the art form. So as a digital photographer, I can take many, many, many more pictures than a film photographer can. So I can do a different type of street photography than a film photographer.
I used to live in a really small town that made me uninspired, so I started to think about what would the great photographer shoot if they were me. Great pictures are everywhere. That's true.
Okay, so there's a guy that I follow. His name is William Thompson. And he is a damn good photographer. He's in Utah. You should look him up. It's minimalist kind of neighborhoodscapes sometimes, but man, they're great pictures, okay? And he lives in a very small place, it looks like, and takes damn good pictures of the place he lives in. You do not need to be, I like to be in a bigger city because I am going a million miles an hour. I like a lot of stuff going on, and I like to have a lot of options. Instinctual, it's always instinctual. I shoot from the gut. I don't plan anything. You know, I didn't even know how I was going to do this interview. I'm standing in my bathroom. I didn't know if I was going to be outside. I didn't even know how I was going to hold the phone. I don't plan anything. I walk down the street, and that happened in Skid Row that some people were in a sexual embrace and they wanted me to take their picture, and I did it. So it wasn't planned. Some people do get their pictures. I send them to people, and I have a bunch of people I need to send pictures to, but I get busy. People on Skid Row often don't have a way to get their pictures because they lose their phones a lot, they don't have email. Any suggestions on how to get rid of photographer's block? There is no such thing. Get out and take pictures. I take pictures. I'm not even going to talk about my personal life here. I have a lot of challenges, okay, with as a single parent of my son, who's 14 and a half. I do not have a lot of money, and it's difficult. And I get out and I take pictures whether I feel like shit or not. You have to take pictures, even if the pictures suck, because I have a lot of terrible pictures. You just have to take the pictures.
How do you like the 2 prime lenses? Are they meeting up the standards? Also, are you able to get close up with those lenses?
I only do prime lenses. I don't even consider zooms. Although if I had the money, there's a new Leica zoom. It's a wide zoom. It's just coming out. It's like a lot of money, close to $6,000. I would totally get that. But I think that prime lenses are better because you can be more artistic with them, and when you can zoom stuff, you can kind of make the picture fit. You can fit it in, and it actually, in a weird way, is less artistic and more informational. I think that when you have a fixed lens, it kind of forces you to kind of make the composition, whereas with a zoom, for me, I'm sort of putting everything in perfectly, and it's not necessarily as artistic, and plus the image quality.
Try to see if I've taken those frames. I think I already feel that we have to do this again, because you're getting so many questions.
What's the person saying about a genius with a smartphone? Of course you can be a genius with a smartphone, because ultimately it's about your composition and your eye. I'm not going to get into a debate about smartphone use. I do think that things are a little too easy sometimes. I think that with the camera, there's things that you can utilize with the camera, like depth of field. Now I have an iPhone 10, so you can go into portrait mode and make it look like you have opened it up to F3 or whatever. But you didn't. You put it in portrait mode. So there is a difference between the photographer that knows how to make a beautiful photo wide open and utilize depth of field in an artistic way, and kind of play with the composition so that you're effectively using your lens. I think there is a difference in skill level, but compositionally, yeah, people can do great photography with the smartphone. But I don't want to be a jerk snob about it. I really don't. So I don't want to have that debate. Was there another question there?
They're rolling in really fast now. I don't know if there's been some kind of a block, because now we're just getting, they're just blasting out questions.
I think it's also the timing of when you start the feed. Maybe people are home from work, or they're on their lunch. So what's
the most important picture that you've taken, and why?
Oh gosh, I have a few pictures that I think are important, that I love. I'm going to have to name a couple. One was the black and white couple that was banned. I actually took it off my feed.
Yeah, I saw that. I was going to try and find it again.
No, I took it off my feed because I have some rotten trolls. I really do. Some jealous, rotten trolls who don't know how to take pictures, and they just want to beat on. I get some messages. I get weird stuff. I have to block people. It's really strange. I get strange stuff on Facebook that actually concerns me. But I pulled that picture down because it's on my website. So I think that photograph of a black man and a white woman in an embrace is an important photo. One of my most important photos was of a little girl sleeping up with her doll on a bridge in Paris. I called it.
I remember that. Yeah.
It's called Petit Pont. I'm not going to say it properly. One of my most moving street shots was photographed in Istanbul of a little girl who I believe was a prostitute. Unfortunately, I did this picture with my X-T2, which doesn't handle backlighting very well and blows out the highlights. So the picture is not, the image quality isn't what it needs to be, but the little girl's look was probably the most, really stayed with me. Most important pictures, important or popular. So pictures that have gotten me attention would be the guy with the knife staring at his reflection. important would be pictures I've done of India. Portraits of India, I think, are very important. Anything else there?
This, how do you approach a stranger? It's the same question. I think what we'll do is, if you're new to the interview, then we did it 2 parts. We got cut off after an hour. So if you go back to the first part, a lot of these questions have been answered with inspiration and all that sort of stuff. Recommend to get past the bad photos in terms of marketing oneself. If you had any, we had a question earlier there. If you had any advice, or you could change anything about starting street photography again, what would you change?
Change anything about what street photography?
If you were to start street photography again, knowing what you know now, what would you have done anything different?
That's a good question. No, I mean, what I would like to do differently, I don't market myself at all. I don't know how to do it. I need to do that. I'm really, I've got my hands full with my son and taking pictures and everything else. I don't know how to market myself. I think I would probably try harder with that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would do anything differently. To be honest, I think that it's important to be less concerned with likes, though, and approval. Ultimately, we're all seeking approval, and I think that it's important to be less concerned with approval. I think that when I started out, I don't really know. I don't really have any regrets, to be honest.
I think the first part where we brought up the Instagram likes, the first parts, a lot of these questions are what is the inspiration behind your photography? Suzanne, you're so skilled in a classic documentary way. I'm always moved by everything you post. You're a great photographer, observer. Life and humanity, love your work. It's nice.
Thank you for that comment, because those comments keep you going sometimes, because the business end of this photography gig sucks, really.
Do you feel you should have as much work as you do on display for Instagram?
I have so many damn pictures. Some of them are on, you know, I have so many pictures. They're not all on Instagram. I have so many SD cards with pictures on them. I've also pulled down certain pictures that got copied. For a while I get copied. We all get copied. That's the other thing about social media. It's the copycat people that get away with murder. I did take some pictures down that I didn't want copied. I was really paranoid about that for a while when my account was smaller, and I still don't like it because sometimes big accounts can come and copy you, and it happens to me and it happens to other people, and I cannot stand it. I think it's totally unethical.
Well, in the way they copy the form of the image, or they copy the composition.
Copy the composition, the idea, the style. You know, you have a guy that'll take a picture of condensation on a window somewhere, and then you got a million people. You got to see a million versions of this same picture, and that's the Instagram algorithm thing. You know, again, presenting me with the same pictures over and over and over again that get diluted from the person that first did it.
It shows you what the algorithm shows you what it thinks you like.
Yeah, but you know what? A lot of people are copying each other, and years and years ago, you had less of that because now we have our entire body of work online. I've had people go into Skid Row and seek out people that I have photographed. So now I don't even give real locations because people have said to me, you know, I don't want to do that.
How do you feel about photo workshops?
Workshops, I would never do a workshop for myself. I mean, I would like to give a workshop, but I don't want anybody telling me how to take a picture. One of the things about me that sucks is I don't like to take orders, or I don't really like when people tell me how they think I should do something, which I think is evidence in my style of photography that I kind of just am in your face. But I'd like to give workshops, you know, and help other people, but
that could be an idea.
I don't want to take them.
That could be an idea.
That's the question.
Study photography or travel and take pics?
Well, you know what? There's amazing photographers that study photography and graduate with degrees in photojournalism and then go to work for the Washington Post, and they're brilliantly talented. There aren't very many of those jobs out there, though. And most of us are students of life. So I started taking pictures when I was in middle age, and I have life experience that dictates what I photograph. So I think that you don't necessarily have to travel if you're not able to. There are people that take amazing pictures of their children and use their children to create a narrative. You can photograph what's in your backyard. I mean, not necessarily blades of grass. But you don't need to travel, but it is very helpful, especially if you're trying to create a career, because then you amass a portfolio, which we talked about, earlier. It takes a lot of money to travel, and I've made a lot of sacrifices. I don't have a lot of stuff. I have very little. My son and I are into art and photography. My son is a very talented artist, and you have to make sacrifices to pursue your dreams.
I think what we're going to have to do is, so I can make sure I can save all this, is we're probably going to have to wrap it up.
Okay.
But
it's been awesome.
We're probably going to have to do it again, because the questions are just blasting through. I'm going to, if for people that don't know, where can they see other work of yours on your website?
They can go to the website link underneath my Instagram profile, and I'm going to say that I've been lazy about updating my website. I need to do that. So there's lots of pictures on there. I need to update it. And I did have a blog, which I've sort of let go because, I don't know, I've just been doing other things with photography. So they can see my stuff there.
Perfect. Thank you very much. There we go.
You are a wonderful interviewer. Thank you so much.
I'm just sitting there. I'm just reading.
No, but it's such a pleasure. You do a wonderful job, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak.
We appreciate you coming onto Capture Streets. Definitely.
Awesome. Definitely. Thank you so much.
And we're going to feature more of your stuff and hopefully more of other photography stuff. I think everyone got some inspiring words. I'm
sorry I can't answer some of these questions I see.
No, I see them coming through now. For those that didn't see the first part of the video, a lot of the questions that are coming up now were answered before. It should be on the, if you go out of the live story, it should be on the little round circles on the top of Capture Streets on the stories there. And hopefully as soon as this one's done, I'll put this one up there as well. And then if you go to my YouTube website, which is Capture Streets, I'll put that video up there as well. So you'll be able to see the whole thing, which is almost 2.5 hours.
Oh, love you too. Thank you for saying that. Thank you to everybody that joined. I really appreciate it.
We should do it again.
Absolutely.
Take care, Suzanne.
Bye. Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.